How you doing? I'm Callan and this is Slapped Ham. Today we're talking about the best Star Wars games ever made. And before we get into it, I've got a huge announcement. One moment, please. Look at this! Thanks to our friends over at Lenovo, we're giving away a Star Wars Jedi Challenges pack. So stick around to the end of the video to find out how you can win this amazing prize. Our mates over at Lenovo were kind enough to give us a Star Wars Jedi Challenges pack to review, to see if it ranks among the best Star Wars games ever made. So what is it? It's a standalone augmented reality console created by Lenovo in conjunction with Disney. It comes with a very cool looking lightsaber and a headset that you slot your phone into. You have to download the Star Wars Jedi Challenges app from the App Store and connect your phone to the headset to play the game. The games themselves run in an augmented reality, so you have to clear a fairly large playing space before you begin. You can still see the world around you, however your periphery is blocked, so judging your surroundings can be a little tricky. Because of the augmentation though, you don't get that sickly feeling you get from full virtual reality, because you can still place your bearings within the playing arena. At this stage, the system comes with 3 distinct games: Lightsaber Battle, Strategic Combat, and Holo Chess. Lightsaber Battle is the standout mode, as you get to live out your childhood dreams wielding a lightsaber, deflecting blaster fire and squaring off against Darth Vader in an epic duel. Combat is really quite refined. The lightsaber at times can feel a little wonky, but thankfully there's a button on the hilt of the saber to recalibrate in the midst of battle. Each segment in Lightsaber Battle consists of a wave mode of droids and stormtroopers. You're tasked with fending them off with your Jedi-like reflexes. You can deflect lasers back at them or slice and dice when they get too close. Once you get the hang of it, you can really let loose, hacking and slashing through droid after droid, lopping off their legs and arms, then skillfully deflecting incoming fire back on distant enemies. After 2 wave modes, you can challenge a Sith Lord in an epic boss battle. These are slightly different to the wave modes in that you must align your lightsaber with yellow lines that appear on screen to parry and block the incoming blows. Once you successfully block an attack, you can counter with your own. As you advance, you must work your way through 5 Star Wars planets: Naboo, Garel, Lothal, Hoth, and Takodana, each getting progressively harder and more complex. The second game mode, Strategic Combat, is a blend of tower defense with real-time strategy. It's an absolute joy seeing the battle play out on your living room floor. As it displays in a sort of holographic form in your playing area, you can walk around and assess the battle from various angles. Placing laser turrets, commanding troops, and sending a wee little Obi-Wan into battle is a really satisfying experience, as you turn the tides of battle right there in your lounge room. The third mode is Holo Chess, based on the chess-like game we see in Episode 4, A New Hope. As the player, you're put in command of a host of alien creatures with different abilities. Patience goes a long way as you figure out key strategies to defeat your opponent. So what's the verdict? As far as I'm concerned, there's never been a game that's made you feel so much like a Jedi Knight before. Wielding that lightsaber for the first time is a childhood dream. Sure, the price point is a little high for a standalone system with just 3 game modes, but if you're a Star Wars fan like me, you're bound to get a real kick out of Star Wars Jedi Challenges. Also, remember to stick around to the end of the video because we're giving away a Star Wars Jedi Challenges pack to 1 lucky viewer. While on face value, LEGO Star Wars may look too kid-friendly to be enjoyed by adults, it's actually a delightful, well-written romp that can be appreciated by almost anyone. Released in 2007 across a range of consoles including PS3, Xbox 360 and Wii, this cutesy LEGO-themed action-adventure takes players on a wild ride spanning the first 6 Star Wars films. While gameplay is simple enough, collect gold bricks as you make your way through the plot lines of the first 6 movies, it's the overall charm of the game that elevates it beyond face value. The levels are varied and engaging, there's a huge amount of unlockable Easter eggs and extras, and an amazing list of playable characters. The art style is a delight. There's something so heartwarming about seeing iconic Star Wars scenes played out in LEGO. Commercially, it was a huge success, pushing more than 3.4 million units worldwide. In 2009, the Guinness World Records Gamers Edition ranked it as the 23rd best video game of all time. This is an absolute childhood gem. Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds puts players in control of gigantic armies in all-out top-down RTS mayhem. Released in 2001, Galactic Battlegrounds was a reskin of Age of Empires 2. It uses the same mechanics and gameplay, however, instead of hordes of medieval archers, players can command hundreds of stormtroopers, droids, or even Wookiees. Critics gave rather lukewarm reviews, saying it didn't feel very much like Star Wars. However, a strong legion of fans grew to love the game and now look back at it with fond pangs of nostalgia. If you love real-time strategy games, I highly recommend you take a walk down memory lane and revisit this classic title. Released in 1992, Super Star Wars for the SNES was one of the first Star Wars games that didn't feel too gimmicky. Sure, it took some liberties with the storyline, but as a whole it gave players the feeling of being part of the Star Wars universe. The game is classic early 90s fare with side-scrolling run-and-gun action and platform jumping goodness. Players can upgrade their guns and abilities as they make their way through an abridged version of Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. The game was critically and commercially a success, garnering an award for Best Action Adventure Game of 1992 by Electronic Gaming Monthly. It even got a nod as Best Movie to Game Creation that year. Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader demonstrates what an amazing console the Nintendo GameCube really was. Released in 2001, the game was the sequel in a series of 3 games that put players in the cockpits of the Rebels Starfleet. The story spans the original Star Wars trilogy, filling in gaps and side missions that the movies left out. Players take control of Luke Skywalker and Wedge Antilles, flying a host of classic craft like X-Wing, A-Wing and Y-Wing bombers. Rogue Squadron 2 was a launch title with the GameCube and proved to be an enormous success, luring consumers into buying the console. Critics loved the game, giving it an aggregate score of around 9 out of 10, citing it to be one of the most cinematic games they had played at the time. If you've never played any of the Rogue Squadron games, I highly recommend booting them up one lazy Sunday afternoon. Star Wars Dark Forces for me is pure nostalgia. It was one of the first Star Wars games that fully immersed you in the universe. Released in 1995, players take control of protagonist Kyle Katarn, a mercenary working for the Rebel Alliance. The plot revolves around the Empire's secret plans to create Dark Troopers, an army of deadly battle droids that could sway the tide of war. Dark Forces runs on the Jedi game engine, which is visually very similar to Doom and other first-person shooters at the time. However, its multi-level game design was groundbreaking. The puzzles found throughout the levels were at times tedious but gave the game real depth, separating it from other mindless shooters. The sound design was amazing. Every reload, every burst of your blaster was joy to your ears as you fought your way through hordes of stormtroopers and other iconic Star Wars enemies. The game was received incredibly well among fans and critics alike. It became the 11th best-selling computer game from 1993 to 1999, with a whopping 952,000 copies sold worldwide. Moving on to Dark Forces' sequel, Star Wars Jedi Knight, released in 1997. It continues the story of Kyle Katarn as he begins to learn the ways of the Force, seeking vengeance for the death of his father. In many ways, Jedi Knight improved on its predecessor, introducing Force mechanics and lightsaber play as part of the core gameplay. An interesting piece of trivia is that the lightsaber footage filmed for the game's cutscenes was the first since Return of the Jedi in 1983. Reviews of the game were favourable, getting a score of 91 out of 100 on Metacritic. It won a slew of awards, including Computer Gaming World's Game of the Year for 1997. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is widely considered one of the best Star Wars games of all time. It managed to introduce a generation of kids to the Star Wars universe before they had even seen any of the movies. It stole the hearts of fans and critics and newbies alike, taking them on an adventure set some 4,000 years before the rise of the Galactic Empire. Developed by BioWare and released in 2003, Knights of the Old Republic is an RPG-style experience with players forced to make decisions that ultimately form the type of character you become. Each decision leads the player either towards the light or dark side of the Force. The decisions you make, the engrossing storyline, and the well thought out gameplay mechanics make for not just one of the best Star Wars games of all time, but one of the best video games of all time.
Well, hey, so as I mentioned earlier in the episode, our friends over at Lenovo have gifted us a Star Wars Jedi Challenges pack to give away to one lucky viewer. To enter, all you have to do is head on over to our Twitter page and follow us, as well as retweet this tweet. There's a link in the description box below along with some terms and conditions, so head on over, enter, and good luck. So there's probably not much point me doing an outro, seeing as you all should be over on our Twitter page following us and entering that amazing Star Wars Jedi Challenges giveaway. But if you're still here, thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you all in the next episode.